My name is Sam Mell, and this is my first visual essay for Anthro 130B, Visuality and Culture. The family photo album represents a strong and deep-rooted tradition in the culture of photography. But what makes family photos different from other types of photographs? And for that matter, what sets photographs apart from older forms of visual representation? Walter Benjamin, in his essay The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, discusses photography's profound impact on our cultural conceptions of art. He argues that photography inherently lacks the central characteristic of more established forms of creative visual representation, the aura, and hence that its main use shifts from ritual to political. Benjamin devises the concept of the aura to explain what he sees as the near universal significance of uniqueness and permanence regarding what we consider as art. Using the term aura, he draws a direct connection between art and the occurrence of beauty in the natural world, and in explaining his concept he instructs us to imagine the experience of looking at a distant mountain. In real life, we would be keenly aware that the mountain has a life and a personality independent of us in our relationship to it. It's distant and it's the only one of its kind, and it's fundamentally tied to its surroundings and its location. We realize this when we look at the mountain, and we appreciate its aura. A traditional work of art constitutes a similarly discrete tangible experience, Benjamin argues, because ideally it possesses the qualities of an aura. A masterful painting is considered unique in that no person, artist or otherwise, can duplicate or reproduce it with complete accuracy to its original form. Its value largely comes from its exclusivity. And a painting may be called permanent in relative terms, partly because museums are devoted to keeping them intact, and partly because history ensures that the artist's identity and the contextual significance of the work of art survive through the ages. The idea of aura isn't just limited to painting, but can be applied to other forms of art like sculpture, where even though a work can be duplicated, the artist's touch and the location of the work play into its illusion of uniqueness. But photographs are different from paintings and sculptures, essentially because photographs make representational images commonplace. They can be printed and duplicated, displayed on all sorts of media, and still retain their authentic feel. The camera in many ways replaces the human touch, and the identity of the artist ceases to necessarily be relevant. Theoretically, with regard to the potentials and limitations of the medium, photographs are pure representational images with no aura or fixed context. They retain their exhibition value as documents of life, but lose the characteristic ritual value of an art object. In response to this problem, we've developed a number of culturally prescribed ways to inject aura into our photographs. Family photo albums constitute a major avenue through which cultural values ritualize photographic images, giving them unique, lasting meaning and value within the construct of the family network. Haldrup and Larson argue that families use photography to construct pleasing memories and life narratives, and that family photos are therefore designed to capture the high points of family life. While in many cases this argument may hold true, it's not necessarily narrative but affiliation that gives these photos their distinctive aura. What grants family photographs uniqueness and longevity is the relationship and identification of the viewer to the people in the pictures. The role of the album itself is to control the two parties at hand, the reference and the audience, who's in the photos and who gets to look at them. As an example of the photo album's role of social control, this is a photo taken by my father at my cousin Shauna's wedding a few years back. To a stranger, the image might as well be from any number of weddings like it, but for me, the photo calls to mind my memory of my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, and the momentous occasion. Simply because I knowingly share a connection with the people the narrative event is attributed to, the photo takes on a unique special place in my mind, tied to me personally as an artifact of my family history. The commonality of the ritual of posing in familiocentric photography stands as evidence to the overshadowing importance of the affiliative human figure in this representational genre. A pose creates the illusion of a two-way interaction between the viewer and the referent, which Marianne Hirsch terms the familial gaze. or the mutual look of a subject looking at an object who is a subject looking back at an object. The object is the camera to the referent and the photograph from the viewer's perspective, but through the photographic illusion, the referent and the viewer visually engage one another directly. More than the mere presence of the familial gaze, however, it's the nature of the gaze itself that gives the family photo its distinct cultural role. A look, as opposed to other types of gazes, signifies intentionality, and the act of looking therefore constitutes an agentive response to the object of the looker's gaze. Therefore, if posing implies awareness of being looked back at, as Hirsch argues, this would mean that the object of the camera in posed photography is treated as an interactive, perceptive figure whose relationship with the referent the familial gaze addresses through the nature of the pose itself. The outward appearance of the subject of the photo, his bodily and facial expression, and even the perspective of the shot reflect the referent's expectations concerning the identity and circumstances of the viewer. Hence, the secret of the family photo album lies in the affiliative connection between the subject and the viewer. The content of the photographs is dictated by the knowledge of the familial viewer, and conversely, the image itself only reaches its symbolic potential if the viewer is familiar with the photographic subject. The family album supplies photos with an aura and context that both rests upon and reinforces shared personal relationships. While the purpose of the album is to consolidate the familial network and to project the family as a singular entity, the album's permanence ultimately depends on strong family relationships and successful conveyance of information through the generations. The family album is a work of art created with a specific and exclusive audience in mind, and without this audience, it loses its sense of authenticity. But in response to Walter Benjamin, does aura truly encompass what artists and image makers strive to create in their work? Andy Warhol, a major proponent of the mechanically reproducible image, famously writes, "I think aura is something that only somebody else can see, and they only see as much of it as they want to." Ultimately, it seems an artist's mission is to send a message that carries significance regardless of its context and circumstances, one that may be reproduced in myriad forms by countless individuals in ages to come.